triple sec, I want a double sec. I need something to help me turn up. And then I want me a soda. Let me start with a Diet Coca-Cola, and I want a Sprite, and then a Dr. Pepper, and all of it's gonna fit in a Toyota. But you already know that I couldn't be. Fall like a butterfly, still like a bee. Last time I ordered for all of these people, but this time I'm ordering honest for me. And I'm just keeping it real. And I want an unlimited chicken grill. But you already know that I couldn't be, so you already know what I feel. But that's all on this tab. I do not know what they want, but they gonna order it all on their own because that Chick-fil-A said I got it wrong, but I didn't. You get any of that wrong?
What's in a menu? Well, a whole lot more than you may have thought. Welcome Culinary 2 students. This is Chapter 2. We are looking at menu management. This is Chef Hawks, and let's jump right in. What is a menu? So a menu is one of the most important interaction times that we have between the customer and the operation. It's going to determine so much of the sales in that restaurant, and it helps with planning and communication.
One of the most important interactions people have with a given operation is through the menu. As a marketing and communication tool, the menu functions in 3 different ways: informing guests about what is offered, selling the products offered, and creating the identity of the operation. The first and most basic function of the menu is to tell guests what the operation has to offer. The menu presents an opportunity to distinguish items from those of the competition. The chef can describe all the special details in the menu, from rare ingredients to prized preparations, making it more appealing to guests. Menus also inform guests about potential health concerns, ingredients that may cause allergic reactions, or even the degree of spiciness. Beyond informing guests, the menu also functions as the operation's best sales tools. It can greatly influence what guests decide to order. The menu appeals to the guests' appetites through well-written descriptions of menu items and the visual placement of items on the menu. A chef can highlight certain items in big, bold text or offer a daily special page. Drawing visual attention to certain items is a way to sell product. Menus also work to help create the image or identity of an operation. The items on the menu say a lot about an operation, but so does the design of the menu itself. Things like font, color scheme, and the material or paper stock the menu is printed on all communicate the identity of the operation. For example, a menu using heavy paper stock, bound in a leather cover, and using a fancy script may give the impression of a high-end and formal operation. Designs that are more casual usually mean a more informal operation. The design helps create an image of the operation. There is no stronger multi-purpose tool for a restaurant than its menu, and as a key marketing and communication tool, the menu speaks directly to guests.
So let's recap here. So that menu and the menu planning process helps us to plan out our goals. What's our target market? Are we looking at families? Are we looking at the older part of the population or the younger part of the population? Where in there do we fit? The types of food and service that we're going to provide will be dependent upon all of this. And then looking at the ingredients that we're going to use. Are we going to be a very seasonally based restaurant? Are we going to be a consistent restaurant that offers the same thing year round? And what's the cost involved with that? Because that seasonality can also affect our costs as well. And then looking at the quality of what we're going to offer. Are we taking things which are pre-packaged, which are going to be quick and easy to cook but require less skill in our kitchen? Are we going to be looking at much higher quality that we're going to need to have high-skilled employees to be able to take care of to offer? This is all about serving the needs and goals of the operation as a whole. And communication and marketing goals are critical to all restaurants, but the fact is the information about the operation is held in that menu. It's the biggest selling product that we have there, and this is where we show everything about what that restaurant is, what type of restaurant you have, and what type of people you're looking to bring into that restaurant, and the kind of atmosphere you're going to create while you're there, creating that identity. Your menu is going to inform the guests. It's going to tell them what kind of operation you are and what you're going to be offering. It's going to give specific descriptions on that menu of all the different food items, and it's going to distinguish what your item is beyond some other competition that may also be in town. Different descripting items on there so that they understand what you're offering that's above and beyond everyone else. And it can also explain any health concerns as well, any allergy issues, any special dietary issues, or any ability that you may have to be able to change your menu item to be able to suit their health concerns. This is all about selling products, so you'll need for it to appeal to the guests. And the placement and the appearance is critical, and we're going to talk more about exactly how that's done to give a different impression. And you want to also create that identity. Your branding is shown through your menu, and it's shown through that design. So different examples can include having paper or different materials like cardstock or laminated stock, or actually menu binders, the different kinds of fonts that we'll use, and the different kind of binding that actually is holding all of those together. We have different menu types that we offer as well. So we have a la carte. A la carte is where each individual menu item is separately priced out and is available separately. Very often this will be offered in a higher end restaurant, especially where they can not only offer each individual item separately priced, but they may be able to slightly alter those to suit your particular needs. Then we have California menu types, which is basically where all the menu items, all the meal items are available all day long. So this is very often based on 24-hour restaurants. Say if you look at Waffle House, for instance. It's a great example of a California menu because they offer everything on that menu 24 hours a day. So you can have breakfast, lunch, or dinner there, and you can choose what you have for that breakfast, lunch, or dinner. So this accommodates for a huge variety of customers. Then you have cyclical menus. This is where you have the items that will change periodically on there. This might be a daily thing, it might be a weekly thing, or it may be seasonal depending upon the availability of different foods. Du jour means of the day, and so this is where we actually list items that are available on that particular day. This can include the daily specials and daily features that a restaurant may have. Quite often this would be inserted into a regular menu, so it may just be a small insert. Then we have fixed menus. So this is where we offer the same items every single day. This gives you the ability to be able to have regular customers who just love your specific fixed items, those old favorites that they've come into your restaurant for years to enjoy. This can be a negative for some people who like to have variety, so it can maybe restrict some of those individuals from coming in quite so often. But then, on top of that, the other benefit that you can have is that you don't necessarily have to have a highly skilled workforce who are able to jump from one menu item to another. If you have a fixed menu, then it could be that those individuals can be brought in, trained on those specific dishes, and so that's all they ever do is work on those specific dishes. This may make it possible then to have a nice menu, but that's offered at relatively low prices because you don't have highly skilled and more expensive employees. We have limited menus. So this is where we only offer a very select few items. That's very common for quick service operations or fast food operations, rather than having a massive broad menu that can take a long time to produce each of these items, especially if there's any changes that are made to any of those items by the customers. You want to have it more specific and limited so that it can be offered in a very rapid time period. Then we also have limited time offer menus, which LTO for short. This is where items are offered for a short period of time, just a quick turnaround. This can be marketed on a seasonal food or new item type of concept. So you may be testing out new items to see if they stick, to see if people and customers enjoy them. Or it could just be a seasonal thing where you had an incredible thing in. Take, for instance, soft shell crabs. They have a very short season, and so you can only offer them fresh for a very short period of time. It is possible to get them frozen, but if what you're offering is something that's very fresh, very seasonal, then you would only offer it for a very short period of time. Perfect example. Prix fixe, or this is spelled P-R-I-X-F-I-X-E, but it's prefix. This is where we offer a multiple course menu for a one-set price. It's price fixed. And so the table d'hôte menu is where we have various menu items that are packaged together. So this may be a nice three-course menu which the chef has selected so that it works well together to create a wonderful experience. When we're looking at organizing a menu, so there is a certain way throughout the world that most restaurants will go by to arrange their menu so it makes sense for their customers. Customers generally don't want to spend half an hour looking through a menu when they're hungry. They want to be able to focus in on exactly the kinds of things they're looking for. So this is a good example of the order in which we place the items on our menu. So we'll start off generally with appetizers, soups, and salads. Those are normally considered to be the first courses if you're going to have a multi-course meal. Then we have the entree type items. Those would include the full entrees and the sandwiches. This can also be offered before salads as well, sometimes in terms of the sandwiches, but most of the time you would have them next to the entrees. Then after that you would offer the vegetables and any starches that would be offered, because that would go with the entrees if you were going to have that. And then you'd have desserts, and lastly beverages. By having this setup, by having this order, it makes it quick and easy for customers to identify where they want to go. If they're having just an entree and they're running in and out for lunch, or if they're coming in and having a multi-course meal, but they don't want to have it where it takes too long to be able to choose and find exactly what it is that they're interested in. Your menu can vary based on the operation's image and its resources too. Its capabilities of taking care of those customers with the offerings that they're offering. So this might be a variety of food tastes or textures, or just one specific focus on one food type, say a pizza restaurant. So you may have a larger operation that uses multiple cooking methods, frying, grilling, baking, among others, but then a small operation may have one food type with appropriate sides and limiting to exactly what it is that they can do and do really well. So we may have it where it divides entrees by category as well. If you're in an a la carte restaurant that offers a large range of different offerings, you may have beef, pork, chicken, shellfish, and seafood, as well as vegetarian, all offered by separate categories. Meat items balanced with vegetables, sides, and desserts as well. It's important to be able to have that within your menu. Some other factors that you have to decide upon as a restaurateur when you're planning out your menu is that you have to look at the physical layout of the facility. So it's important for your menu design about the size of the facility, your storage, your prep, and your cooking areas. So as you see on this design right here, our kitchen takes up a very, very small amount of space. And then you have a huge restaurant which is offering lots of different tables and lots of different amenities within that space. So you have to make sure that that kitchen has the capability of offering that food and offering it perfectly every time, and that the service team can run it from that kitchen to the opposite side of the restaurant, where it may be a long way to be able to run that food. If you're trying to offer something like a souffle that can sink rapidly, you may not want to have a souffle offered to this table when the server has to walk all the way through the restaurant as it sinks. So determining the efficiency of your production is key. The skills of your personnel. So you need to be able to have skilled chefs to be able to produce specialized items if you have a very detailed menu. The skill level of your staff should match the items of those foods, just to make sure that you're not offering something above your station and above your capability and disappointing customers. Your availability of ingredients is key. So you have to be able to balance the cost of the ingredients to the expected profit as well. If your ingredients are very seasonal and you're purchasing things that are out of season, you're probably going to pay significantly higher rates for those. But you may not be able to charge a lot more money for those when they're out of season. meaning that you're going to damage your capability of making a profit because it's all going on your costs. We're going to look at that a little later on in this presentation. So we have to consider the cost and availability of all of those ingredients to make sure that we're running an effective solution in our restaurant. You have to be able to plan out what the wants and needs of your target market are. You can't focus on the preferences of the owner or the managers as to what they want that restaurant to be, because otherwise it may end up being a restaurant that no one wants to go to except for the owner and manager, and that's not going to be a viable business. The expectations of the target market should meet the guest's needs after the operation is fully established as well. So it's important that we are consistent in everything that we do, so that way those guests that keep coming back have their expectations met. The profit margin is key to any restaurant. So the amount of money that's left after the expenses are paid is what our profit margin is. So we have to make sure that the operation it sets some target margins, so having that profit expectation there, so that we know exactly whether we are successful financially or not. So our design of our menu should be easy to understand, and it should reflect our operations design as well. So the various elements of that menu design is the medium of that menu design, the layout, the color, the font, and the artwork that's in there and displayed on it. So that medium, that's the materials and the method that we're getting that across to our customers, should be well thought out. So usually most restaurants these days are still using paper and card in some sort of way, whether it's an insert into a menu folder or if it's laminated. But so various different materials vary in costs depending upon exactly what you're looking for. So non-menu types can also include menu boards and spoken menus, when your server literally tells you what's on the menu for today. And it also now, more and more, and going into the future, will include more electronic versions, where you can see right here you may be handed some kind of a tablet to be able to look at. You may even look at it on your phone to be able to choose before you even arrive, or once you're even there. There may be something like a QR code that you scan to get their up-to-date menu. Then even in quick service or fast food, we already have some electronic types. If you go to some McDonald's, you'll actually find one of these boards right here, and you can tap in exactly what you want. You can ask them your certain preferences for things as well, and you can pay right there. You literally go up to the counter afterwards, and your food is ready. So the layout, or how the menu is arranged as well, the spacing and the sequence is highly important. Like we talked about, the sequencing of food so that people know what to expect, and so it helps them to plan out what they're planning on eating as well. And this can also be used to emphasize certain menu items too. We'll talk about that a little later as well. But some menu items you may even want to emphasize, so that way you sell more of those rather than some other items for varying different reasons. So the color, that can set the tone of the menu. So blue tones could signal seafood, whilst a blend of orange and red might signal spicier cuisine, such as Cajun food. Or you may even have other things like reds that can show love, so maybe on a Valentine's menu. Depending on what you want to show, this can indicate the types of foods and the types of setting that you're looking to create. The font can highlight different parts of your menu. So you can use italics, you can use bold, you can use dark colors, or angular fonts. So certain fonts might be suitable for kids, like bubble lettering that's kind of fun. Or you might want to have a different font that shows a more modern appearance, or a more traditional kind of appearance, so that you grab people's attention to certain items. And then the artwork is key as well. So images of different photographs of food maybe, or of different images of the interest of that menu, showing different types of borders and lines, different arcs and curves versus straight lines. This can indicate the type of operation that you have. Let's take a look now at our sales mix analysis. So this is where you have an analysis of the popularity and the profitability of certain menu items. This is ideally performed at least 4 times a year. So this helps you to determine menu changes as to whether some things are very popular and some things are just not, and why, and maybe they need to change. And then we have some menu engineering as well. We're going to start breaking down the different menus components and determine the sales performance of those items and if things need to change. So this is data that's collected after a certain amount of time as well. You need to have a block of time, maybe a month, maybe a quarter of a year, to be able to actually make determinations that aren't rash, that are made from smart decisions. So this is how we can actually take all sorts of issues that we might have or successes, and we can turn them into greater successes or turn things around.
While there are several methods available to do menu analysis, one of the most popular is menu engineering, which breaks down a menu's components to look at which items are making money and which items are selling. Using menu engineering, managers know which items to leave alone, which need to have an increase or decrease in prices, which to promote, and which to eliminate. Placing menu items into categories based on things like sales and profitability will help managers make decisions on what items should stay on the menu and what items should go. The 4 key categories of menu classification are stars, plow horses, puzzles, and dogs. Stars are items that are both profitable and popular. Locate them in a highly visible position on the menu. They are the celebrities and highest priced stars. Because of their status, they tend to be not as price sensitive, meaning there is a higher margin for profit. Guests are usually willing to pay more for stars, so these menu items may be able to carry a larger portion of any increase in food and labor. The next category is plow horses. These items are popular but less profitable. Plow horses are often an important reason for a restaurant's popularity. If the plow horse is price sensitive, meaning guests feel that it is a good price value and it is the only reason they come to the restaurant, try to pass only small price increases when needed. If the plow horse ends up closer to the dog category on the graph, meaning it is not as profitable, remove it from the menu and make a substitution. Puzzles are the next category. These menu items are unpopular but very profitable. As a result, the number of puzzles on a menu should be limited. One option to help puzzles become popular is to decrease the price or leave the price alone and try to reposition the item on the menu. You can also try upselling. Even changing the name of an item can make it seem more appealing. The last category is the dog. Menu items that are both unprofitable and unpopular. Eliminate all dog items from the menu if possible. Dogs may end up on a menu as a result of a cutting-edge trend or a request from a guest. One option you have if the item is a request from a guest is to make the guest happy by keeping the item on hand and charging extra for the item. This may upgrade it to puzzle status. Some menus may have too many items, and it is not unusual to discover a number of unpopular menu items that have no relation to the popular and profitable items held in inventory. Do not be afraid to eliminate dogs, especially when demand is not high. The menu classification categories help keep the menu profitable. So whether an item is a star, plow horse, puzzle, or dog, keep in mind that a balance will keep your guests and your profit margins happy.
As a part of this, we have to look at our sales volume. So this is the number of times that an item is sold in a certain period of time. So the quantity is recorded generally either by hand, but quite a lot these days by a point of sale system. This helps us because it can take care of all of those calculations and give us a report at the end. The sales volume percentage is the number of each menu item sold to the total sale and the percentage of its total sales. So as you can see in the image over here, the regular coffee, the sales count was 78, and so that was 20.16% of total sales of all of these items. Price provides information and determines the profitability of our menu as well. And so this determines the market category and the guest's expectations as well. Because if you have some very high-end products on there and you're actually charging a significant premium, then the expectation that's going to come from the guest will be significantly higher. Also, we must ensure that we have profitability in our restaurant. And this can be broken down not just overall with the restaurant, but by the individual menu item. So prices must account for all costs. The costs include food that we're actually purchasing in to produce our dishes, but then the labor and all the overheads that go with it too. So as we looked at, let's look at how we are going to work around to see just how good each of these menu items are. So we have the stars, the plow horses, the puzzles, and the dogs. And as you can see, looking at the y-axis here is the number of items that are sold on that particular menu item. And then across the bottom, the x-axis, we're looking at the profitability of those items. For the stars, up in the right-hand corner, these are the ones where the number of sold and the profitability is sky high. We're looking great. They're very popular items and they make us money. They're profitable. So this is what we should be doing, where we should be prioritizing its position on a menu. We shouldn't have these items hidden away somewhere. We want guests to order these because we make money on them and people brag about them because they're great. So these should be our highest priced menu items as well. This is a menu item that probably could be charged at a higher rate if you're not already doing that, and it will probably stay as a popular item because people just love that menu item. Then we move on to the plow horses. So it's popular, but it has less of a profit margin. So this may be a high-end item, something that costs a significantly high premium, but you just can't charge a significant amount to go with it because it may have some sensitivity to that. You may have a lot of competition in your area with this particular menu item, and so if you charge twice as much as the next restaurant, if yours isn't twice as good, you're probably going to start losing out on sales. So this is where an increase, so this can actually help to increase a restaurant's popularity by having these items in there and by showing a great value with these. Always monitor these items for profitability though, because you don't want it to drop down into being a dog by being less profitable to where you actually end up making a loss on these items. The puzzles. So over on this side here, so it has a great profitability to it, however, we just don't sell many of them. So if it's an unpopular menu item, but we're making money on it, then really we should be wanting to limit the number of these items that are on our menu. So this is where we promote with advertising, make sure we've got a good menu placement for it, maybe even change the name, do something to reinvigorate that, because it could well be that we might be able to push it up into being a star. It may just be that customers are just unaware of it, they just don't notice it. And then we look at the dogs. So the dogs are unpopular and unprofitable. This is the area of our menu that we need to dispose of. So this is what we need to look at because we're carrying inventory of these items, but we're just not selling them. Now it could be that this might be a specialty item. It might be that this is a specific, maybe a vegan item, which isn't going to sell a huge number of items, a huge number of dishes in any given night. But the thing is, we always want to be able to have some of those dishes on our menu so that we're catering for all of the guests that come in. So you may have to make a decision there as to whether you maybe change that item up a little bit to make it more popular to other people, maybe give the ability to add something to it where customers on a broader range might be more interested in it. But you really do want to look at moving those dogs either up into plow horse or star position or maybe a puzzle. But the fact is, you don't want to keep things that are dogs perpetually. Let's take a little deep dive into some specific menu items so it will help you to identify these as you're managing a restaurant. So let's take a look at some plow horses. So say if we have a steak that's a plow horse. So this plow horse and the steak lands right around here if we're looking if we're conversely looking right across here, then it's going to arrange right in this area. So the thing is, we're not making a huge profit on this, but they're very, very popular. Well, so the problem that we may have when we're looking at this is that steak might be Wagyu steak. Wagyu steak is extremely expensive. And so we're not going to make a huge profit on it, because if we go with the same profit margin, we're going to talk about that in a few minutes, but if we give the same profit margin to that Wagyu steak that we would to something on a cheaper end of things, maybe a vegetable burrito, then we would end up pricing that outside of the general market, and we would make it so expensive the customers just wouldn't want to purchase it. So sometimes these plow horses just have to stick around, but we may want to put them in a more popular spot on the menu to hopefully encourage more of those sales. When we're looking at the dogs, so let's take our veggie burrito right down here, the number 3. So that lands right over here. So because that's a dog, because that's not really selling a huge amount, and it's not making us much of a profit, do we want to keep that on our menu? Well, the difference could be is that we do get vegetarians coming into our restaurant, and that's one of the only dishes that's available for them to be able to enjoy. So we have to keep it there. Maybe we need to rename it. Maybe we need to rework it a little and come up with something that's a little more interesting to that individual, so that way we do sell more. Or maybe give them the ability to add something to it to make it so it's more popular on a wider range of our customers. Then we look at our stars. So let's take a look at the omelette. So our omelette right over here, it's got some great profitability. It's got some great numbers sold. So it's a superstar. We love this, and we wish that we could sell these all day long. And it's great, so put it in a popular spot on your menu so customers see it, so they keep on ordering it, because we make a boatload of money from it, because those eggs don't cost much. It's just the toppings that might cost a little, but we're still making great profitability on it, and we're selling a boatload of them. And that's great. Keep it right where it is. Keep it popular. And then we look at our puzzles. So let's take a look at one of our puzzles. We have the lobster. So lobster is right over in this area here. So that puzzle is strange to us. What do we need to do to change that puzzle around so that way we can actually make it so it's so we sell more of them? So it's profitable. So we're making some great money on that lobster, and people really enjoy it, but just not enough people. So maybe it's just the way we have it named. Maybe people don't understand exactly what that dish is. So maybe we can rebrand it, rename it. Maybe we can tweak it a little bit. Maybe the sides are the wrong kinds of sides. Maybe people would prefer to have some steamed bliss potatoes and some clarified butter to go with it, and they just like it nice and traditionally served that way. Maybe they want it to be served with a higher end kind of look to it, and have it more trimmed up with a nice salad. But whatever you need to do, you need to try and make it so that customers will see this more prevalently on the menu and move it up to the star position by having more numbers of these sold. How do we go about pricing a menu so that way it's going to be suitably set up so that we're not going to scare customers away, but also so we can maintain our profitability? There are actually several different ways of doing this, but a couple that are very popular. So one is that we can have a food cost percentage using the food cost percentage method. So this is where we set the percentage of the menu price that the food cost must be. And then we also go and calculate out the price that will provide this percentage. So when we look at the formula for this, we're going to take the item food cost, we're going to divide it by the food cost percentage, and that's going to give us our menu price. So take a look at an example. So we're going to take our ribeye steak. So this costs $15 to produce that ribeye steak and the various different things that go with it to create that dish. So it's $15. We're going to divide that by 33% as our food cost percentage that we have chosen. And so that will give us a sale price of $45.45. Now, we're probably not going to charge $45.45 on our menu for most restaurants. We're going to round up or round down on this. But so this should be dependent on the food cost and the preparation intensity as well. You may find that your food cost percentage that you set on maybe dessert items that may be cheaper to produce, but they have a very high expense in terms of employing a skilled pastry chef to be able to make them, and it may be very intense on the actual amount of labor that goes into making them. You may end up wanting to have a higher food cost percentage. Now, with a salad that only takes about a minute to put together, and it's a very simple type of salad, with that, you may even be able to have a lower food cost percentage. It all comes down to what your restaurant needs to do. Another method that we can use is the contribution margin method. So this is where we use data to determine the dollar amount to be added to an item's menu cost. So this works for a la carte items especially, as well as grouped items. But it can determine for all the menu items, each individually and separately on that menu. So we use the operation-wide data to be able to work this out. So this is where we need to be able to understand all of the bills, all of the costs that restaurant is going to have. And so we'll use that to determine a dollar amount that you add to each item food cost. So it's a two-step formula that we have to use for this. So this is where we're going to look at the total non-food costs in that restaurant. So this could be looking at our electricity bill, our gas bill, at the employees, the cost of our labor. It could be looking at the linens that are on the table. It could be looking at all of these various different items that are in there. And then you have to add the target profit to it. Then you divide it by the number of guests, and that gives you your contribution margin. You then take that contribution margin and you add the food cost to that to give you your individual menu price.
The two main methods for pricing menu items are the food percentage method and the contribution margin method. Let's start with the food percentage method. Set the percentage of the menu price that the food cost must be, and then calculate the price that will provide this percentage. We'll start with how to figure the food cost percentage. The formula for calculating food costs starts with adding the opening inventory plus all of the purchases for a given time period. The total of those two numbers equals the total dollar amount of available food for sale. The closing inventory is then subtracted from the total food available, resulting in the cost of food sold, which is the food cost. To find out what the food cost percentage is, divide the food cost by the food sales. For example, if the food cost is $8,500 and the food sales are $27,490, take $8,500 and divide it by $27,490, which equals 0.309, or 30.9%. Now we can solve for the menu price according to the food cost percentage method. So, if a burger costs $3 to make, divide that number by 30.9%, which is 0.309. The answer is 9.71. We can round that up to $10. Remember, this number will change because food costs are constantly changing. Also, different menu categories, like beverages or appetizers, may have different food cost percentages. Now, the contribution margin is what is left over, profit-wise, after the food cost of a menu item is subtracted from the menu price. By using the contribution margin method, we can determine a dollar amount to add to each item to cover for things like labor, supplies, and other additional variable costs. However, managers need to know or estimate some variables by using operation-wide data. This data can include the number of guests served, non-food costs, and the target profit. Once we have figured out the contribution margin, we can figure out the menu price. Food service operations can choose how to calculate menu prices, but all methods include purposeful math, the kind that can determine whether the restaurant is turning a profit or not.
A couple of great exercises to do when you're looking at a menu and designing that menu is to also look at the placements on here. So we can see When we're looking around here, we've specifically got that cowboy cut ribeye. We're really highlighting that. It's $75. We're going to be able to make some great profits from that because we'll make sure that that's one of our superstars. And so we're going to want to push things like that. Another thing to do, though, when we're looking at our costs, a great thing for an executive chef to be able to do, or an owner to do, is rather than having all the prices for the individual menu items, change those out. Get rid of the prices and put in your costs in there, your cost percentage in there. So that way you can actually identify exactly which items are more profitable. Because when you look at and find those items that are more profitable, that's when you want to have them highlighted. So if this cowboy cut ribeye was actually just one of the plow horses, where it's having to work hard to make it to get those sales, then that might be a good decision to put it here. But having one of your superstars just hidden somewhere in the middle, say if our crab cob salad was one of our superstars, you want to make sure you'd highlight that too. Make sure that people know it's there. Also, something to know about is that your eye generally goes to the top of the menu first, and then down to the bottom of the menu after that. People generally fill in the center afterwards. So just know that that champagne omelet right at the top here is getting a huge opportunity. Make sure that one counts. Make sure that one doesn't have a high cost to it or any other negative connotation that could be either not worth your while or that could be unprofitable for you. We do have two additional pricing methods that we can use as well. We have the set dollar amount markup and the set percentage increase method. So these two methods are generally used for major menu items only though. So the set dollar amount markup, this works in that we add the fixed dollar amount to the food cost. So this is where you must know what your food cost and your markup is. And so our formula is that we're going to use our food cost plus markup is going to equal our menu price. How do we work out our markup? So that's where we're going to take our profit per menu item and we're going to add the labor cost per menu item. So we'd have to work that out between our front and back of house labor and add that to our operating cost per menu item. So we're going to need to know the operating costs of our electricity, our gas, our linen bill, all of the other operating costs that we have, and that would give us our markup that we would add to our food item. But for the set percentage increase method, this is where we go one step further than the set dollar amount markup, and we actually calculate the markup percentage in terms of the food cost. So this is where we'll work out the food cost, multiplying that by the percentage, and that would give us our markup. Our markup is then divided by our food cost to give us the percentage.
The two main methods for pricing major menu items are the set dollar amount markup and the set percentage increase method. For the set dollar amount markup, simply add a fixed dollar amount to the food cost of an item. In order to use this equation, you must know the food cost and the dollar amount added as the markup. To get an accurate dollar amount for markup, you have to consider three other items to solve the equation: profit, labor, and operating cost per menu item. Then add the three components together and the dollar amount markup will accurately cover the cost. The other method for pricing major items is the set percentage increase method, and it builds on the set dollar amount markup method but takes it a step further. Basically, managers calculate the markup by multiplying the food cost by the percentage. This determines what the percentage markup is in comparison to the item's food cost. If you have the markup and the food cost, then you can calculate the percentage by dividing the markup by the food cost. This way, managers can calculate a percentage markup for all menu items that can take into account increases in food costs. The percentage markup can help keep the food cost percentage the same across the board.
The last area we're going to tackle today is our Q factor. Q factor? What is that? So every menu, every restaurant has extra items. Things that you don't charge for. We can't charge for the salt and pepper, the bread, the butter, the ketchup, and those other condiments. sugar cubes, lemon slices, the half and half to go into your coffee. All those things are just expected. They're not seen as things that you can actually sell. And so because of that, we have to make sure that that's not going to eat away at our profitability. Because for some establishments, that could end up being a significant size of our profitability that can be worn away. So this is what we call our Q factor. So we must incorporate that into our menu costs. So how do we do this? Okay, so we take the amount of an item served over time, and we're going to divide that by the number of entrees that we serve to give us our average portion used. The average portion used multiplied by the food cost item gives us the Q factor, the amount that we need to charge and add in to our food cost worksheets when we're working out how much to charge for that entree. We must work out that Q factor, how much all those freebies are, those extras that we wrap into one of those entrees. So let's look at an example here. So we served 800 entrees in a 2-week period, and we used 100 lemons during that time so that we could give a half slice of that lemon in each glass of water, because we're a fancy shishi frou-frou restaurant, and we put a nice little slice, a half slice of lemon into our water. So we would actually divide those 100 lemons by the 800 entrees that we sold, because that would mean we had 800 customers coming in to enjoy our entrees. That would give us 0.125, or about an eighth of a lemon served per entree that we sold. So we have to make sure that we're not just giving those lemons away. So if that lemon costs 10 cents, then the cost of each serving of lemon is about 1.25 cents per customer that comes in. So we would add all of these extra items, so the lemons, the half and half, the sugar cubes, the ketchup, the butter, the bread, salt and pepper, any of these items that we don't charge directly for, we'll work out the average cost using this formula per customer, and we would wrap that into our Q factor. So right here you can see where we've got a food cost worksheet, a basic food cost worksheet, and right down on here we're actually going to work out how much our Q factor is and enter that in as one of our ingredient items on there. By doing that, we are now factoring it in and understanding exactly how much our menu item costs, including these extras, the Q factor.
Do I dare ask?
Yes, I'll start with the carpaccio, and then I'll have the grilled prawns.
That sounds great. Same for me. And for the gentleman?
Yeah, I'll have the Thai chicken pizza. But hey, look, if I get it without the nuts and leeks and stuff, is it cheaper?
You'd think, wouldn't you?
Our menu management really can set ourselves off with our marketing as soon as those customers walk in the door and see what's involved. But it can also be our success or failure when it comes down to our profitability as well. So there's a lot that goes into a menu, not just what the chef wants to put on the menu, not just what the owners want to have on that menu, but what the customer will buy at the price we're determining and come back time and time again for more. I hope you enjoyed this chapter, and I'll see you soon in the kitchen. Cheers.